Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this program about your Kundalini awakening experiences. My name is Chrism, and I'm the host. And we also have Santara Kundalini, who's a co-host, and she'll be coming on later on in the show. Right now, we're doing a little bit of a sound check here in the chat room, so hopefully the sound is coming through. And if it is, then we'll continue, and if it isn't, we'll still continue. So here we go. Often, actually most of the time, within a Kundalini awakening context, people don't know that they're having the Kundalini. They don't know that what they're feeling is, a Kriya, or that, the voices in their head are actually real, and you want to make sure that you don't pay attention to anything that they say. There's a lot of strangeness to this activity, to this consciousness upon your body. And within that activity, there's a lot of fear that can be developed. And basically today I want to talk to you about your fears of the Kundalini, your fears of the strangeness that comes. And you really need to begin to shift your focus away from the different levels of fear that will occur. Most of this is a fear of the unknown. And as we begin to embrace, the fear of the unknown, we begin to connect to a greater level of understanding. And as that understanding increases, so does the fear decrease. And as that fear decreases, so does your openness to the changes that the Kundalini is bringing to you, so does that also increase. And so it's very, very important for you to look at your fear and how much is that controlling your life. Just take a moment now and look at fear in your life, and how much is that controlling the choices you make, the decisions you make, and the actions that you make in this world. How much of your time goes to the avoidance of fear, or, taking yourself away from a fearful scenario? Most of the time we associate fear with pain, which I think is a very good association. Much of the time, a fearful thing will have painful connotations. And it's important for people to understand that much of the painful connotation is in our head. Not every man hanging out on a street corner is a rapist or a burglar or a criminal or an assassin in some way. Not every dog that passes you will bite you. Not every bug that lands on you will sting you or bite you. You need to really begin to understand that fear maximizes blockage. Fear, it creates blockage. Fear maximizes blockage, maximizes resistance. And that is very important to understand, that when you have the fear, that fear, first of all, it's of the ego, and that egotistic fear is trying to insert itself between you and what your Shakti Kundalini is bringing to you. Now, granted, there's a natural primal fear of the unknown that most people have. This fear of the unknown is has to do with being being prey or predator. By the way, those of you that are getting bumped off in the chat room, just go right back on. Don't let that bump off be a permanent fixture for you. Blog Talk, and your connection or the internet connection may vary, and so you'll get bumped off, but you just go right back and sign in again. And Amelia, if you would go ahead and write that on the chat room wall there, that if you get bumped off, just log right back in. So fear is a level of blockage, is a level of resistance to the grace, the beauty, the joy, the happiness, the intelligence, the discovery that the Kundalini has to give to you. Now, recently, I've just been involved with a certain kind of process, which I'll get into later on, that can evoke fear in people. Fear of the gift of yourself to an unknown quantity, the fear of the gift of yourself to your Kundalini, to your grace, to the level of spiritual advancement that the Kundalini has a promise for. So it's very important that you understand that your Kundalini is not to be feared. Definitely respected, but not feared. And I don't think there's anywhere that in at least the writings that come through me where, you're saying, I'm saying, oh, you must fear the Kundalini. No, you must not resist the Kundalini. So if you're going to fear anything with regards to the Kundalini, fear your own egotistic fear itself. Fear creates a blockage. Fear creates pain. Fear creates and produces circumstances that can be exceptionally painful for an individual. Let's just say if you're feeling or you're fearing the automatic movements that come with the Kundalini called Kriyas. If you're fearing the Kriyas, then many of you will resist that Kriya. And if you resist that Kriya, well, that Kriya can become very painful. And so instead of associating your resistance to the pain, you'll associate that which is causing the automatic movement, i.e. the Kundalini, with the pain. And this is an incorrect association. It's your resistance to allowing the movement to occur that is causing the pain, most of the pain. Amelia, if you could also go on to the Facebook group and let people know that if they get bumped off, to just log back in again. I think we had some new folks there, and they don't realize that they got bumped off and that they can get back online with it. Thank you for your help. So it's really important that we begin to refocus how we consider fear. How do we think about fear of the unknown? And of course, with fear, the more information you have about what you're fearing, the less power it has over you. I.e., if you, in the primal example, the more you know about the lion, the less likely that lion is going to be able to eat you. Okay? But when we bring it into a Kundalini context, the more you know about the Kundalini and the more you trust the Kundalini, the less likely your fear is going to consume you. So it's always good to do your research. And right now, there's a lot of places on the internet that profess to have a knowledge of the Kundalini, and I'm going to suggest that most of them do not have accurate knowledge of the Kundalini. They may have combed through the web themselves and collected, bits and pieces of truths, and they may list those truths as their own knowledge, and that's okay. I'm perfectly good with that as long as they're listing truths. But many people, because they don't understand the Kundalini and they haven't done the ego work, meaning, the work about self-aggrandizement, the work about competition, the work about, bragging, braggadocio, the work about it being all about them and not all about the Kundalini, this type of work, they're likely to put in fearful comments or fearful suggestions that can jaundice a new person coming into this by trying to scare them in order to increase the veracity of their authority. Don't fall for that. Kundalini is not to be feared at all. If you're going to fear anything, you got to fear your egotistic response to what the Kundalini is bringing. And by fearing that, you just stop doing it. Stop reacting from a fearful, egotistic area with regards to your relationship to the Kundalini and its relationship to you. It has nothing but your highest and best experiences in its transformation for you. Seriously. Seriously. It really has your best interests at heart, and you really want to begin to understand that. You want to begin to understand it. You want to begin to embrace it. Now, yes, it is a powerful, powerful, powerful experience. It will change your life in ways that are unimaginable. It will increase your sensitivity in areas that you never thought you had sensitivity in, like telepathy. I have one student right now is, this person goes to work and they're becoming telepathic. And so when they come to work, they're able to access the feelings, the hidden feelings that, their workmates have about this person. And it's kind of like scaring them. It's like, well, that guy's not really thinking about me in a truthful way, or that guy's saying one thing, but he's feeling another thing. I'm feeling the emotions, and I'm feeling the thoughts, and I'm feeling, all of this stuff. And, there are certain transition periods within telepathy that you want to really understand, that you focus more on the Kundalini rather than on the gift that she's opening within you. And if you are, when you have the ability to focus in on the gift, you must also hold it in sacred space and allow the people to have their privacy, but also have your forgiveness, the skill set of forgiveness, in a very, very strong position. So no matter what they're thinking about you or about other people, your forgiveness always overshadows it. Always. You see, and these are the levels of interactivity that we're not used to understanding, that we're not used to practicing, and we're not used to having in an actual activity-based expression as we move through our lives on this world. So you see, it's very important for you not to fear. This person could just go into fear and think they're going crazy. Literally. No joke. They would literally think they're going crazy, and they wouldn't know how to not self-incarcerate by virtue of hearing all these voices or seeing all these images. So watch your fear levels, because this will come. There will be an attendant opportunity for fear with each of the sacred skill sets that come upon you, whether it's telepathy or telekinesis or clairaudience or clairvoyance or, any of the sacred skill sets. There is an opportunity for fear, because you won't know what's happening. You'll think an entity is moving it, when in fact it'll be you that's moving that orange across the room, rolling that orange across the table. We're so focused on looking outside of ourselves for the source of any kind of paranormal activity, when sometimes it's us that is doing it through the power and the grace and the infusion of the Kundalini. So very important for people to understand that. Very important for people not to go into fear about paranormal events, not to go into fear about the Kundalini coming to them and showing them the visions, showing them in their dream life, where they may want to look at it. And don't read anything about dream interpretation if you have the Kundalini, because Kundalini dream interpretation and mundane dream interpretation are two very different languages. Not the same at all. Just an FYI for that. Now, it seems that everything is checked out with the sound, and so I want to go ahead and give out the guest call-in number. If you'd like to call and be a part of this program, I encourage you to call. This goes for those people that are listening on Facebook right now. I believe we have some live listeners there. And the people in the chat room, you feel free to call up. The number is 347-934-0026. And getting back to the increased sensitivity, I've been getting some comments in my private mailbox there on Facebook that whenever they come to my site, or whenever they read something that I've written, that they'll get some sort of an energetic variance in their head, and that it can be painful. And this is true. When you hear my voice, because the Kundalini is in my voice, When you hear the voice, there's a certain level of manifestation that it can occur in some of you that are sensitive, and you may feel the Kundalini from me coming into you and coursing up the natural channels that Kundalini will use and beginning to infuse areas of your body and of your energetic anatomy that it sees fit to infuse. Don't be afraid of this. Open to this, welcome it. It is an adjunct of your own Kundalini. Kundalini knows itself, and it will know the Kundalini in yourself, and your Kundalini will know the Kundalini that's coming from me. Open to it. Be grateful for it. It's probably why you're even listening to this program, or that you're even reading anything that I write on that group, any of the groups. So know this and understand this and accept this and be grateful for this. This is direct divine intervention. And the scenario is that as my Kundalini comes up your channels, it begins to make the profound changes that the Kundalini will make in an individual. And this creates a difference in the frequencies of life, in the frequencies of your feminine side of your brain, the bicameral brain. The feminine side of your brain will begin to change, will begin to transform. And that creates a frequency shift. The Kundalini in me coming up you also creates a frequency shift. And the Kundalini in you will strive to bring itself up to the Kundalini that is infusing me. And it is in that strength and that transformation where some of the pain can exist. And it's temporary. You'll notice that if you stop hearing me, then you'll have some residual, but it'll eventually it'll come down in severity quite a bit. But so will your transformation also come down in severity. And so you want to kind of look at both ends of it and say, well, is a little pain worth, a lot of evolution? And there you'll have your own choice to make about that. So it's really important for people that are listening to this program in the future, because the Kundalini is not tied down by temporal events, i.e., it's not controlled or weakened by the passage of time. For those of you that are listening in the archives, it's going to be just as strong as those who are listening right now. So once again, put your tongue up, put your fingertip, your thumb tip and your forefinger tip together. Bring your eyes up if you have the opportunity to, not if you're driving. And listen and receive and allow yourself to move with this grace. Now, I'm going to move the conversation into mantras. And before I do that, I want to welcome the queen of Celtic Kundalini, the shining emerald of Europe on the western shore of the European continent, the son of Tara and the Tara of Sun. Hi, Amelia.
Hello, poetic Chrism today.
Isn't Sun Tara, doesn't that come from Ireland? Like Tara is Ireland, right?
Yes, Tara is a place in Ireland, a place that's very ancient, where the High Kings and a lot of Druidic and even pre all of that, I think, going way back to the Tuatha De Danann. Yeah, Tara is a place in Ireland.
And what does sun mean in Irish, in the Irish language, S-U-N?
Well, if I was to speak it, it would be green, on green.
Green? Oh,
yes,
on green?
but the
Okay.
sun,
What does that mean?
on green. The sun.
So you can actually say, your name is actually Grian Tara, then, right? Grian Tara?
Could be. Could
you
be
could
indeed,
almost
yes.
say, you could almost say Green Tara.
Yeah, that's true.
She comes in
phonetically.
Green. Yeah. Kind of cool.
Yeah.
Welcome to the program, my dear. The program, ladies and gentlemen, this program is sponsored by Amelia Santara. And she created it back in 2012, just in case we had escaped the worldwide inundation from the 2012 non-event.
Gosh, remember all of that.
Yeah, we kept it going for these past 5 years, and it's all because of you, my dear. So much gratitude and many thanks to you.
Well,
Vicky
you're very
Von
welcome. Not all because of me, but anyway.
Vicky Von writes, I named my little Pomeranian, which are great dogs, by the way, very smart, very loyal. She says, I named my little Pomeranian Tara before I knew anything about Kundalini. Well, there you go. Tara probably has a lot to teach her owner, or the one that she owns. All right.
Exactly.
So now, as we follow the serial episode, the episodic experience that you're having with your negative entity within you, Santara, how are things going lately?
Chrism, things are going well. Things are going well. Why do I get a blank when you ask me these questions? I find it difficult. I really do.
Well, let me ask you this, because I'm about to get into the mantras. How does your mantra help you mitigate the effects of this evil, negative consciousness that the Kundalini has allowed to come into your energetic anatomy?
Mantra is my saving grace. I use that term all the time because my mantra is my grace, is a grace for me. Without it, Chrism, I'm not too sure, how I would be, to be perfectly honest, because I've been using my mantra for a while. In terms of the entity, it's my first response. So my mantra is said, and everything that I mean in that mantra is instantaneous. So it's very, very powerful, and it takes me, it helps me to not go to where the entity is trying to bring me or push me or shove me or drag me. So it's very, very powerful. It also places me within within my Kundalini, within the grace of my Kundalini and my teacher, because the two of you together are within the mantra, the Kundalini and my physical teacher, the expression of the Shakti in my physical life. The mantra, Chrism, is it's like a living. Oh, it's hard to explain it. The response within me to saying my mantra can be different. Sometimes when I say the mantra, it moves me into a place of such surrender to the Kundalini in that moment in time. Everything that the entity doesn't exist. And sometimes it opens me up to seeing what it is happening to me, what it is that I'm trying, that the manipulation that is going on. And the Kundalini allows me to move into a position that is the opposite of what is trying to be done through the mantra. Through the mantra that happens. And sometimes, Chrism, when I'm not, that all sounds like it's no problem to me, but sometimes when I'm struggling, the Kundalini, the mantra is like my anchor. It's like what holds me from going into panic or fear. So, there's so much
Now,
that the mantra.
before
Yes.
you had this this dark entity come in, how often did you use your mantra, and what was it for? I mean, the question is naturally asked. Well, do you have to have a dark entity come in order for the mantra to be a vehicle of protection or change within you? So before you had the dark, what role did that mantra play for you?
Well, the mantra had multi roles really. It really helped me with my ego. It helped me with my devotion. It helped me with my surrender. It helped me to focus on what it was I knew the Kundalini was giving for me, and that was for me to surrender to her agenda, to surrender to the teacher and his teachings for me, to go on the path that I knew I was to be on. So, I'd be a bit all over the place. I'd have a strong ego.
Now, with getting back to the whole teacher thing, does it help you trust the teacher more or less? And I ask that because I've been writing lately about how difficult it is to trust a flesh teacher, and what a big jump that is from trusting some dead guy with his picture in the pages of a book, and actually a living, breathing flesh teacher of the Kundalini. How does the mantra accelerate or decelerate or impact that in any way?
That's a really good question. A good comment, because it does a bit of both at the same time. So, I have to look back now on this because it's not something that's current with me, because I completely trust the teacher. That isn't part of my mantra now. So, but I can remember when I started saying my mantra first. Okay, let me backtrack a little bit. First of all, from one position, let's say, from block A, I knew that the Kundalini had given for me you to be my teacher. So I knew that. And my ego didn't really know that to the same degree.
Back in 2009, right?
Yeah. And I wouldn't have got a mantra straight away, so maybe I started saying the mantra around the end of 2010.
You were still going under the fake name of Julia at the time, I think, right?
Yes, I had yes, I wouldn't have started the mantra then, but soon after that, Chrism, yes, 2010, yeah. And the thing about the mantra is, when I began to say it, of course, let's say the first week or the second week, it was absolutely wonderful. It brought me into such presence of Kundalini, such devotion. I was so given to the mantra and so committed, and let's say the feedback was very positive. But then at some point, my ego would have started to say, "Whoa, what? Really? I mean, seriously?" Or you and I might have had a conversation where you weren't behaving like the dead guy, because, that's up on the wall with,
like our perception of Jesus or somebody, or Buddha.
Yeah, because you see, you can project your own stuff onto a dead guy. But when you've got a teacher that's interacting in the physical, and, you don't even necessarily have to be mean. You just have to trigger something in my ego, and then ego starts going, "Whoa, what are you doing? Giving your everything to this teacher. It's fine, give it to the Kundalini, but no, stop, Amelia. This is ridiculous. This is absurd," and begins to talk in such a way as to really corrupt all that had been given before that point. And the wonderful thing about it is that struggle, I think, is necessary. I think until that begins. Now, I think, because I can only speak for myself, I think that was necessary for me. Now, maybe it doesn't happen for everybody, I don't know. But for me, that would have begun. And so I would have had to bring my ego into where it didn't really want to go and insist on continuing with the mantra despite its objections. And then something else begins to unfold, you know. It's so not linear, Chrism. So, you know, when you start to unpick it and try to talk about it and extend it out in a line, it makes it all, you know, it's not really like that, because then what happens is you move into another phase where you realize, yes, you know, this is correct, and the ego is silenced. And then something else occurs and ego comes again. And it's a little bit different, and you know,
it's not a linear signal at all.
No.
But you covered it very well.
I mean,
go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, I suppose what I'm saying, if somebody is listening to me and if they're in that position and their ego is just screaming or is upset and the person is conflicted, I know for me, I looked with, I suppose, as much dispassion as I could back on that linear route, for the want of a better word, and I said to myself, look, girl, 2 weeks ago, this was the correct decision. You knew it was from your Kundalini. You were 100% committed to it. What are you going to do now? This is your ego. Are you going to listen to that, or are you going to trust that what you were given to do from the Kundalini in the first place is the thing to do? And so it's the trust in that that helps you to get through the ego that's trying to disintegrate that's trying to corrupt it. You know, it's self-preservation. It doesn't want to go down that road where it's not in control. So if that's happening for you, see it as a good thing. See it as an opportunity to re-educate your ego and let it know. And you know what happens? And it takes a while because I'm still down the road and it's still happening to me. But what actually happens is your ego does, to a degree, come to understand that it's okay. It's actually okay to do this, and it's not obliterated by it. And then, of course, you know, after a while it thinks it is again. But each time is not the exact same as the time before. So keep going and just trust in the mantra and know that it is specifically for you as well, is another aspect that I think is very powerful, Chrism.
Yes, it is specifically for an individual, and it's given to that individual. When I give a mantra, and I gave you your mantra, and when I give a mantra, it's the Shakti in me, the Kundalini gives the mantra, and so the flesh part of the individual has very little memory of what that mantra was. And it's important to keep that mantra to yourself. Don't tell it to other people. But this ties directly into how we started this program with the understandings of fear. A mantra, the kind of mantra that is typically given through me, is one of, it's a giving of yourself to the Kundalini, the giving of yourself to the teacher. It's, as you have mentioned, Amelia, it's a definite giving of yourself, but it's a very different form of giving, because you're being compelled by virtue of saying the mantra to give yourself to the divine force that is controlling this whole scenario. Kundalini controls the scenario, the relationship between the student and the teacher, the relationship between the student and the Kundalini, the relationship between the teacher and the Kundalini. Kundalini controls it all. The one thing that the Kundalini will not control is the ego within you, because the Kundalini wants you to have that fear so that you can overcome the fear. You must have a blockage or a resistance or a fear or, some sort of a barrier for you to overcome your fear of. in order to actually bring yourself into a place outside of fear. You must have to experience. So in Amelia's case, she had to have that dark, evil, terrible entity come into her life in order for her to actively be able to overcome it. And it's not saying that it's all over, she's overcome it, and it's all gone. It's not. It's a constant focus. When you have these types of experiences, there is never a time when you're not saying the mantra to some degree. Am I correct, Santara?
Completely, Chrism. Yes, totally.
Yeah. I mean, are you saying the mantra during the show here as well?
I do. Yes.
No, that's all good. That's all good. That's all good. I would expect that you would. And ladies and gentlemen, this Santara is an extreme example where the people that just receive a mantra, their mantra is to begin to compose their response to the energetic incursion from Kundalini itself, to the transformation of thoughts, the transformations of emotions, the transformations of how the ego is allowed to control or not to control, your choice there, your higher mental functioning choice of, well, am I going to eat the 29 candy bars or am I going to have an apple? That type of a thing. I mean, that's an exaggeration maybe for some. I could also use the example. I'm going to eat the entire 3 cakes in one setting.
Oh, stop. Tara's organic, though.
So, yeah, you're going to...
Oh, yeah. No, you're right. Yeah.
Or am I gonna smoke this cigarette because that addiction goes back many years for an individual, or am I going to have that amount of alcohol, or I'm gonna what is it I'm gonna do that the Kundalini doesn't want me to do, that my ego is going to have me do in order to resist it having to surrender to the Kundalini. And so by virtue of these examples that I've just given, you can understand that the Kundalini really wants you to eat the apple, not the 29 candy bars. And but the ego will want the 29 candy bars. And so who's going to win? Well, who's going to win is going to be dependent upon your higher mental functioning self. That person, that part of your consciousness that's above the ego, going, maybe 29, maybe just 2 or 3 too much. And maybe that higher mental functioning self will choose the apple because it does understand that it needs the Kundalini, and that even though it may not know what it is at the moment, a mantra can really, really assist that. And I'm gonna swing it on over here to Rosemary, who is so graciously called in. And hi, Rosemary.
Hi there. So
How
good
you
to
doing?
hear your voice every week, Chrism. So good to hear your voice, and Amelia's also.
Thank you. And it's good to hear yours as well. And tell me, now I've given you a different mantra just recently, and because it's so early in the process of that mantra, I would like to ask you how this is working for you or not working.
Yes, it is. It's been very powerful in the beginning, and then sometimes when I am committed to these times in the day in which I spend time with the mantra, then I get a little organizing and checking things and making sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, like that. And I saw that today, that's the ego wanting to manage it all. But it has energy at a different level than I have had before.
So you had one mantra that I gave you about 5 years ago, right?
Yeah, and I don't even remember what that was.
Right, and then this new mantra came, I think, about a week ago, maybe a week and a half. And go on and tell the people how this affects you, or what is happening to you. What is the feel of it? What is the how is it appropriate for you? How is it helping you?
Whoops,
So it helps
excuse me.
you ring the bell.
Yeah. I was wanting to get into the room where I pray my mantra, and in the presence of the copy of it that I have right now, and just to honor that.
So make that private.
Yeah. Yes, but what I would say is that it does involve every aspect of my life, not in a million words, but it's every aspect, and it's much deeper from my expression of those same things before. It involves a level, and I posted, I guess it was this last week, about this, where a mantra is given to you by someone of Chrism, of your spiritual stature, and if I would choose something myself, it would all be what would be conscious for me, which wouldn't be of much value at all. And my ego protecting itself, I wouldn't even think or suggest things that you say and encourage a person to step into and to live. And that's amazing. That's amazing. I've been one of the older children in a family of 6, so you get to be very independent and very managerial and handling things, because it's a big picture, when there are 6 of you. And I see that shows up. That's what I would manage myself if it was my doing. It's not my doing. It's Kundalini's gift to me through you. And I'm very grateful. And there are things that I wouldn't even think to say or to include. And that's about the most I could say about it without telling you the whole mantra, but I'm not going to do that.
Oh, no, don't do that. How has it helped you overcome fear?
Well, it helps in that the fear right now I have is what there is for me to be doing regarding my work in supporting the seminar. And
maybe you should use the mantra to help refocus any kind of fear, including the organization of the seminar. In other words, don't organize that seminar with the control of fear, but maybe with the application of gratitude or some other form of service towards Kundalini. It's definitely a service that you're giving to the Kundalini, just like Manish said. Manish is giving the same kind of service.
Yes, it is a surrender. It's a surrender, and it in even what there is to do, and to be listening to what the guidance is. Like I have, and it is so amazing, because things like this that we're talking about will shift in me, partly in my desire and partly by divine grace, and then it's like, oh my goodness, it's quite an awakening. A little one, not the big spinal sweep, but that's very present just in what you said. It's surrendering even to that, surrendering to guidance, for heaven's sakes. This is
getting over that ego block. It's that whole flesh teacher thing. People don't realize that Jesus had to go to the bathroom too. He did. He had to wipe his rear end. He had to go pee every now and again. I mean, so did Buddha sitting under the banyan tree there. I bet he used those banyan leaves for a few things, not just shade. People forget that, but because they're not in the physical anymore, then it's they presumably have come out of the desires of the flesh, which we know that Jesus didn't, because him and him and Mary Magdalene, created that family that also created the Merovingian dynasty in the south of France, if you listen to some levels of information. And Buddha, I think Buddha had plenty of little princesses as well. But humans tend to change the story as time goes by in order to suit their own perspective or what they want to have as a perspective. Now, as far as your mantra goes, you should really look at that again and take the fear of that seminar organization out of it. Do not allow that to control you, okay? This is the second time I've heard you mention this in a separate conversation. Right. So I want you to ease that stress upon yourself. I want you to ease that tension.
Oh, yeah. It's there now because I just bumped into something right before. I was a little bit late getting on the call because I bumped into something on my desk and I said, "Oh my goodness," and was needing to do some backpedaling to blah blah blah. Like that. It's recent.
No, it's all good. It's all good. And I want to thank you.
Yes.
I want to thank you for giving us your experience with the mantra and how that has affected you. And I want to go straight on over here to Joey because she just received her just a couple days ago. And, this is a big difference from somebody like Amelia, who's had it for like 7 years, or somebody like you, Rosemary, who's had one for like 5 years. Joey has only had one for a few days. And I want to come on over here to Joey. And hi, Joey.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing beautifully.
Well, how is that mantra treating you? You've had it for 2 days now, I think. How is that going?
Well, I think well. I feel good about it.
Would it be a difficult mantra for anybody to receive?
I don't know. I have had an interesting
was it difficult
dream.
For you to receive?
It was a shock. It was a very long mantra, and it was entirely different from what I might have expected.
Yeah,
but,
a little different from Om Mani Padme Om.
Yes.
And did you mention that you'd had a dream about it?
Yes, and it's a little complicated. I don't know that it's appropriate to share it now.
Don't share it if it mentions any part of the mantra. You need to keep that to yourself. But good. So you're getting some things to think about and to chew on with this mantra, then, yeah?
Oh, definitely.
Would you recommend that other people get a mantra like this? And if you would, why?
If they're ready for it.
Okay, that's a good answer. That's a good answer. Thank you, Joey. Thank you very much. So there you have it, folks. I mean, we've got 3 different perspectives on the mantra. And she brings up a good point. Most of the mantras you'll hear will be Om Namah Shivaya Om, or Om Mani Padme Om, or some version of a very simple, sweet little mantra like that. Now, the mantras that I give can be pages long. And you have to memorize it. And you have to say it. You have to say it and feel it and mean it, because it's covering so much a part of the human condition. It's, like Om Mani Padme Om, is a mantra to bring peace, but also to bring abundance to you and things of that nature. Om Namah Shivaya Om is also one to bring you into the brilliance of the sacred masculine God and to have that resonance within you. The mantras that she gives through me are exceedingly personal, amazingly searching for a word here, intimate, amazing, and she goes right to the basis of your soul and just really, it's a redefinition of who you are, a redefinition, redefining who Manisha is, who Michelle is, who Vicky is, and really building on that redefinition. Because with Kundalini infusion, that is what is occurring. That is what is taking place. Is you are transforming from the person you have been your whole life into the person that you are now becoming. It's like the butterfly and the caterpillar. You've lived your life as the caterpillar, and now you're being transformed into the butterfly. You're at the late stages of the cocoon, or the middle stage of the cocoon, or the beginning stage of the cocoon. You kind of see what I'm saying, is that once that butterfly emerges and the fluid comes into its wings, it will never, ever go back to being a caterpillar. And these mantras you might see as the fluid moving into the wing of the butterfly. That sacred fluid, that spoken fluid, moving in to the veins of the butterfly, allowing it to fly. And for those of you that don't know the physiology of butterflies, when the butterfly comes out of the cocoon, it will hang upside down for a little while, and it will shiver its wings, and it will stretch its wings. And if you've heard the old saying that if you try to help the butterfly extend its wings, it will die, because the shaking and the hanging the upside down, the whole bit, is the butterfly itself spreading the fluid into its veins. So you never want to help a butterfly at all. You let the butterfly do their own work, just like the chick pecking a hole through the egg. You've got to let the chick do the work, because the chick needs those muscles. The baby chicken needs those muscles in order to begin its new life as a newborn chicken, or new hatched chicken. So with that in mind, that butterfly example in mind, the mantra is like that fluid that helps fill the veins within the wings of the butterfly. And it's not an easy mantra to hear. I think, Michelle Ranger, didn't I give you a mantra? You can answer yes or no. I think I did give you a mantra, but I don't think you've been saying it. Or I think it's been bringing things up in you that cause the ego to develop the resistance, like Amelia was talking about earlier, the apple versus the 29 candy bars. So we've got 4 people here that have received a mantra from me. Is yours, Michelle? Is yours? You say you've been saying it this week. Do you feel that yours has been helpful to you in any way? And do you have anything that you would like to say about your mantra without exposing any part of the mantra? Please feel free to write it down, and I'll definitely read it out here on the air. And so the scenario is that these mantras really, really can help you with the Kundalini. But it's not easy help. In some ways, it's tough love, because you may be used to eating 29 candy bars. You may say, hey, wait a minute, Kundalini. I've been eating 29 candy bars since I was 13, and I have the dental charts to prove it. So now, what do you mean I can't have any 29 candy bars? And so the ego will definitely put up a fight, and it will have, what it feels is a sound historical basis for fighting any kind of a change that the Kundalini wants to bring. And have you experienced that, Centaura? Centaura of the two cakes? Or was it three?
Yes, I have, of course, Chrism. And it's interesting, that analogy of the literal analogy of the full cake and the 29 bars versus the apple, and how the ego will negotiate, well, okay, but you can have 5, or you can have, and makes you feel, well, you're doing okay then, aren't you? Because you didn't have the 29. You just had 5. So, whereas the Kundalini didn't
5
want
of the
to have
gigantic
any.
ones.
And I just share, if I may, the alcohol that happened, actually, because it just came back to me there now. And that was, I was going to a function at the weekend, and without going into all the details, Entity was doing its thing, and about having alcohol. And now, just to let you know, alcohol is not something that I'm to have at all from my Kundalini, from my teacher. Excuse me. So I was, first of all, it started with, I knew there was going to be a champagne reception because of what the entity had said, and sure there was. And I was being given that a little sip would be okay, And what was very interesting was even a sip, which is no alcohol, just a sip, would have been the same. It would have been, allowing the corruption to begin, just a sip. So it really, I suppose what I'm saying is, it comes down really to completely following the Kundalini and not negotiating with ego or entity, or minimizing what it is, you allow ego to do. And the mantra helps with that.
Very good. Absolutely. Michelle Ranger is also ready. Oh, go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say, if I may, Chrism, taking a mantra is really, I really feel it's like a commitment, and like a sacred commitment that we make to Kundalini. I can remember when I got mine. It is a sacred commitment, and it's to the Kundalini and to the Kundalini through the physical teacher. So when we don't take a mantra casually, at least we shouldn't, to try it out and see if it's okay. And I love that Joey said it was a shock. It's a great word, because it can be a shock. So, but she has made a commitment. You make a commitment to do it, and then that commitment, or that sacred commitment or contract, or whatever word you want to use, really is what overrides, or what takes away the choice of the ego. At least that is what it is to do. By saying the mantra, we are not allowing the ego to have any say, because we're committed in a sacred way to our mantra for our Kundalini. And that's how it becomes, that's how it is a grace, I feel, that commitment, that sacred commitment to the Kundalini through the mantra.
Absolutely, yeah. And Michelle writes, she says, yes, definitely. She says, my ego jumps in and fights with me as it's a flesh teacher. So what I think she's saying is that her ego fights with her because, this guy, he puts his pants on one leg at a time like everybody. What makes him so damn special? And she says, she continues, she says, a bit like Centaura, and yes, how the ego negotiates. LOL. Michelle Ranger says, Centaura says it perfectly. I have to agree. She does indeed say it perfectly. And someone, some of you might ask, well, what happens if you make this commitment and you break this commitment? Well, I'm not going to sit here and push fear at you. But I'll tell you the mechanics of what happens. These mantras are very, very powerful because they're sculpted by Kundalini for Kundalini. And so, you literally have like the extreme levels of power coming into a person in order to change them from the energetic anatomy to the physical anatomy inside out. So let's just say you have one of these mantras, one of these very potent, powerful mantras, and you're doing it, and you're doing it, and you're doing it, and you're doing it while you exercise. You're saying the mantra while you prepare your meals. You're consuming the meal as you say the mantra. You're thinking the mantra. You 6 hours a day. You're saying the mantra, and all that time the Kundalini is coming in and it's opening you up and it's opening and changing and transforming and the person's really growing with it. And then all of a sudden, their ego chimes in and they decide to go with what their ego wants. And I had one student who did this, and this person said, well, gosh, I had a dream where I was somewhere in Northern California, and there was this guru at this intentional community, and he was there to give me all kinds of power, and I decided to go with that. So I stopped saying the mantra. Well, boom. The ego, the whole ego idea of a want of gain, the fear of loss and want of gain. Well, the egoic expression of want of gain kicked in. And as that occurred, a strong level of dysfunctionality entered into the person. And it didn't, there may have been some pain, but I'm not really trying to push the fear. I'm just saying that when you have this mantra and you do this mantra as hard as this individual did, and then all of a sudden, due to the mantra brings up these toxins within the individual, and those toxins surface, and then the person gives in to those egoic toxicities, they can become amplified. Because, the more Kundalini, the more amplification. And so that person, had to deal quite a bit with the amplification of her choice in the recitation of the mantra, and then basically not ever wanting to say the mantra again. And yet, still coming into spiritual teachings and whatnot. And, it can be very difficult to make that shift with the individual. So as Amelia said, this is no small commitment. If you're going to do this, then really, really do it. And let it do you as well. I'm not kidding about the detoxification that this kind of a mantra can give to an individual. I have, I've experienced, people saying the mantra over and over and over and over and over, and then having, the huge detoxifications like Michelle said that her ego was coming into conflict with the fact that a flesh human gave that mantra, and so that is a reason not to do the mantra, not to do what the mantra is saying to do, not to surrender in this way or that. And so that toxicity had to come up, and other levels of toxicity will come up, like the desire toxicities can come up, where you desire those 29 candy bars. So therefore, if you desire, therefore you should have it. You've got the money, you've got the time, you've got the product. It's right there. Why should I have to eat an old wormy, musky apple? I've run into the same thing with myself, Or is it musty? It's a musty apple, right? So, there are definite responses that a person can receive from their own Kundalini as the person engages these mantras and then disengages them due to the ego encroachment into these sacred areas. And a lot of time, that is the plan of the Kundalini as well. So let's talk about this a little bit, is that the Kundalini will allow, she knows what level of ego detox you're going through. So she sees, okay, Michelle has this thing about the flesh teacher coming up. Let's let that play out. And then I kind of wish I had Michelle on the phone right now so I could talk to her. It's okay. I don't know how long it was before Michelle noticed that, something was amiss or something wasn't right or something needed to be corrected. Some sort of a course correction needed to be made, and she made it. And the Kundalini didn't go away. It didn't say, oh, you stopped saying it. Oh, my God, well, forget you. Didn't say that at all, did it, Michelle? It just stayed right there and patiently waited for her to make whatever choice she was going to make. And Michelle, I'm just going to ask you for any kind of an understanding that maybe that is what occurred, if that's what you felt. What occurred. Please write it out. And while you're doing that, Vicki Vaughn has wrote, she says, I told you after receiving my mantra that I had a dream, and it was where you were in it, and it was like a courting. Later, I had a dream, and you were in it, and I think it was more negative and more resisting, like I was swearing at you. Well, let me tell you, you wouldn't be the first person, Vicki. So, thank you for holding back on the radio today, Doc. Vicki, I would like to get together with you on Skype or maybe on that Facebook version of Skype that they have and do a mantra upgrade. Just see. It's just definitely, I'm just getting upgrade for Vicki. So we can do that. So with regards to Michelle, she must have seen that something was going on. Is that true, Michelle? Was something going on that made you? What was happening that made you want to start up the mantra again? Maybe I should just ask you straight up. Okay, and so she's going to be typing that out. And Vicki's saying, okay, yeah. So we'll meet up, Vicki, and we'll listen to that again. You got to remember that once I give these mantras, I had no idea what is said. I have no idea whatsoever. People could torture me to death, and I would not be able to remember because this is from the Kundalini. This is definitely from the Kundalini. Vicki writes, she says, I feel I'm being tested and I'm failing. Vicki, I got news for you. There is no failing with Kundalini. There's just more time. More time, more understanding, more action, more choices to make. Nothing. As long as you continue to recognize the Kundalini, you really won't fail. And even if you choose not to, well, you've come into it this far. So really, there is no failing at all. And Michelle writes, she says, like the butterfly, I can't go back. You are a most amazing butterfly, Michelle Ranger. So there we go. And Vicki says, I feel a darker part of me is coming out. Well, this is the detox part, Vicki. This is the part that needs to come out. And it can be like an entity that Santara has, or, it can be, any kind of a negativity that has been harboring itself within you, making itself at home within your body. And now the Kundalini, by virtue of that mantra, is starting to clean things up. And Michelle Ranger is right. She says, I was going into the deep, dark place. Well, maybe that's exactly where you should have gone, Michelle. So kudos to you and kudos to Vicki. You're talking about the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Nicely done, both of you. Nicely done. Nicely done. All right.
Chrism,
Yes, ma'am.
sometimes when the failing is actually a good thing, when we're concerned we're failing. Sometimes when we think we're doing well, that's when we need to worry. I think when we're struggling like that, it's often a sign things are going the way we need them to go. We've work to do.
She said, I feel a darker part of me is coming out, and that is exactly what needs to come out. And I mean out. Not just up
Out.
for a breath of air. I mean out of the body, out of the energetic anatomy, out of you, Vicki. Nice. And same with Michelle, Michelle says, I was going into that deep, dark place. Well, sometimes we need to shine a light in some of those deep, dark places. Just to make sure that, everything's good. Everything's healthy. Have you been able to collect any questions for today's show sometime?
I have indeed, Chrism.
Okay, let's go ahead and begin that. And Vicki, I will read what you're writing just here in a moment. Go ahead.
Okay. So the first three questions were sent to me. First one, why do I hear sounds of cricket during the daytime also?
That is a very definite sign and symptom of Kundalini infusion. And you're not actually hearing them with your ears, although it's coming into the audio channel. That is a level of clairaudience. And these chirps and these crickets, you'll hear them when you're in the house as well. You'll hear them when you're in the bathroom. You can look all over that bathroom. You will not find a single cricket. This is, it's a kaleidoscopic audio signal of the presence of the sacred feminine within your consciousness. It is all about the Kundalini. It is not having to do with crickets at all. Crickets are just one of those holy insects that the Kundalini uses to alert an individual to her presence within them. Over.
Thank you. What changes occur in the 5 bodies after Kundalini awakening?
The divine infusion causes extreme changes within the 5 bodies. The ego presence is upgraded into a working partnership. You have many skill sets: telepathy, clairaudience, clairvoyance, telekinesis, bilocations. You can come out of temporal existence, and you can literally begin a process of time traveling if that's part of your equation. I mean, for me to say that is for me to sit here for the next 60 years, giving people what the upgrades of the 5 bodies would be. And then we've got karma also on top of that. So Kundalini reads karma like we read a book. And so everybody's karma is different. And so everybody's response to Kundalini infusion within the 5 body systems will be different. Over.
Thank you. And the third question is, what is the relation between the root chakra and piles, as in hemorrhoids?
Well, there is actually, surprisingly, there's a relationship there. Because the energetic at the tip of the tailbone, the first 3 vertebrae of the tailbone, can excite itself. It's literally you're like a lightning bug or a glow bug or whatever people call those bugs that light up at night during the dusk and the dawn, I think. That level of intense energy can cause a level of itching, as if the person has hemorrhoids, and when in fact they may not. The other aspect of hemorrhoids is you want to take out the obvious concerns, turning the toilet time into an elongated library time, basically as you push out fecal matter, you're also pushing out the veins that support, the rectum. And so you don't want to do that. So once you do your business, and you get out. You don't turn it into, let's read the entire newspaper or the Encyclopedia Britannica. The other thing is that you really want to clean yourself exceptionally so after you do the defecation, simply because the Kundalini is not only spiritually and mentally and emotionally detoxing, it's also physically detoxing. And those toxins will collect at the rectum, and you don't want to leave them there because they will gouge into the skin. They will begin to cause a chemical burning on the skin around the rectum. And so you really want to if you have the availability of a, I think they call it a duvet. Is that what it is, Amelia? Duvet?
We don't have them in Ireland, Chrism.
Well, you guys don't even know how to make toilets in Ireland.
A bidet, yeah, I think that's what they're called. Yes,
a duvet. I think it's a French word. And what basically they're doing is they're using water to help cleanse that area. I would really suggest that all Kundalini people use this type of a service or to really, really, really wash with soap and water. I know it sounds, elongated. And it is. It's a long process to do that. Just longer. It's a lot longer than just wiping and going. But with Kundalini, you really, really want to understand that detoxifications are real, and they can disguise themselves as the hemorrhoidal itch. Now, if you have the actual hemorrhoids where you have the blood vessels are really, really expanded and you're having to push them back into the rectum after you use the toilet, don't get them cut out, because the Kundalini will eventually relax those things. You might want to be standing next to a wall and just gently lean over and with your legs straight, try to touch your fingers to your toes. And if you've got a big gut, well, then you got to lose that gut, but you can still keep doing it. And what that will do is that will begin to stretch the inner muscles within the pelvic region. That will begin to stretch them back into their position and allow a bit of bloated by blood relaxation through those vessels, and that can help you get rid of the hemorrhoids or piles, as they like to call them, and begin a routine of yoga to keep that healthy, and begin a routine of constant stretching in the area that allows you, and I don't mean 24/7, but I mean certainly allows you to begin to recognize the health of that area as a strong, strong commitment on your part to keep what the Kundalini is bringing into that area, that detoxification, a clean and healthy environment. Okay, really take your time in cleansing your... here's the thing. Take the time that you would have taken reading the entire newspaper and let that go to your cleaning of that area after you defecate. Okay? Try to allow air to come into that area as well. So if you can go naked outside somewhere without being seen, man or woman, that would also be a very helpful action for you to take. I guess I've gone on a bit long with that. Over.
Thank you, Chrism. You posted this sentence on the group. You said, Kundalini, once Kundalini is activated, no other practice needs to be used, just the safeties. And it brought up two questions. One was, can the Kundalini go back to sleep if we don't do a practice?
Well, if it's activated and it's an early aspect of the activation, yes, it can go back dormant again, if that is the will of the Kundalini. not if it's the will of the individual. Okay. The Kundalini within the activation state is all about being compelled to practice, compelled to breathe in certain ways, compelled to think in certain ways, compelled to feel and have emotions in certain ways, compelled, all the way up until you have a spinal sweep. And then after the spinal sweep, then the awakening compellings kick in. So if you're strongly within an activation, there is no turning that off, no matter what. You can refuse to do the yoga. She wants you to do it. She'll just create a scenario where you're going to want to do the yoga. You don't get to call the shots if it's a strong activation. If it's a weak activation and the karma is correct for the Kundalini to, of its own accord, reduce its application to you, well, then, of course, it can do that. Most of the time, the genie will not go back in the bottle. If you feel that energy coming up your spine and you've seen the snakes or you've heard the crickets or you're having the visions, you're saying a mantra, and all of a sudden you go, oh, Jesus, man, this is way too hard. I don't want to do this. Forget it. Well, it's too late. Okay, forget it. That's what I heard Amelia do that. That's how I knew how to do that. Not true. Not true. I'm just joking. So no, if that's the case, it won't go out of the bottle. It won't go back in. But it may not antagonize you to so much. It may just start working on the person in a smaller way, a way that isn't so, shall we say, bombastic. But the karma has to fit for that. You see, the karma must fit. And karma is a big part of the deal here. People need to understand that. Over.
Thank you, Chrism. You've answered the second part, which is about the different strengths. And so the third part was, what you mentioned about the safety being the only practice. But what if we have our own mystical practice, Chrism? Somebody asked you.
Well, then you must discern its level of refinement upon the ego. And if that level of refinement is a great transformation and reduction of egocentric power and control, then that can be fairly healthy. If it's not doing the ego work, which most of them are not, then you may not do that. Over.
Thank you. There was a question on the group, and it said, what if I identified Kundalini with male form? I'm associated with Lord Ram since 15 years. Experience is so deep with his name and form, so as of I'm going with this. Does anyone have this issue?
Well, you don't want to go with just one gender. That's trying to climb a ladder with one leg. Okay. Now you can do it, I guess. You can hug that one side, but it makes it very, very, very difficult. Lord Ram also had Sita as his wife, and so the example of Lord Ram, if you're following Lord Ram, then you're going to follow his example, and that means you're also going to have a strong devotional, respect, loving relationship with the sacred feminine. You don't just get to follow the masculine like so many religions like to do. Where they're following Buddha, they're following Jesus, they're following Krishna, they're following, the sun god, they're following Zoroaster, they're following Zohar, they're following all these male figures. They need to follow the sacred husband and the sacred wife, not one or the other. You see, this is the big lesson that needs to be learned worldwide on this planet. If about one gender or another. It's about both genders coming together in harmony, in agreement, and working to create heaven on earth instead of what has been happening, which has been hell on earth for many of the different cultures. Not all the cultures. And not all the cultures are monogendered. Okay, not all the, some of the tribes in the Amazon basin recognize sacred femininity, recognize sacred masculinity. Some of the Siberian shamanic communities also recognize that. Some of the going into the Himalayas, they also recognize that. But it's very few compared to those who are just going after the patriarchal control mechanisms. And that goes back to the primal area of life as being, it's the law of the jungle, the strong, control. And so, but if you look at lions, the female has much more control over the males than humanity would like to understand. Because, we're always looking at it from the primate, it's just like the big gorilla is so much bigger than the female gorilla. But you know what? She has her say. She gets to have her say. And the strength is not always in muscles. It's not always in the power to commit damage. And this is what our world needs to evolve away from or through, to understand that it takes two. It takes two to become one. We hear all this new age stuff. It's like, oh, everything is one. I am one and you are one and we are all one. And Amelia's one and Rosemary's one and all of these words on my computer screen, they're all just one. But what they're failing to realize is you got to be two to get to one. And then if you really understand things, you'll understand the ancient alchemical equation. And that is, it's the two that are one and the one that is two, which brings enlightenment. Constantly we see people wavering between one extreme and the other extreme without actually going into the middle path and saying, oh, it's both extremes that I need to honor and to revere and to incorporate into my spiritual understanding. It's not just the light. We also have to have the dark in order to appreciate the light. It is the two that are one and the one that is two. That is what makes everything one and two. Singular plurality or plural singular. Over.
Thanks, Chrism. From the group. There is a period when the Kundalini symptoms seem to have disappeared, such as the shakings, swelling of feet, painful teeth, jaws, headaches. Instead, there is more like joy and empty feeling inside, like you're just existing. What stage of the Kundalini process is this?
Well, it's good that the person has gone through levels of acclimation that they've moved through the Kriya stage, and they may have moved through some of the other active stages upon the body, and now they're coming into this place of stillness. And this is another aspect of the Kundalini, this experience of the void. The void, people, the void can drive people crazy because, they may have gone years with so much interactivity in their mind and in their, doing the prayers, doing the mantras, doing all these things, and all of a sudden, nothing's going on at all. And when they close their eyes, they don't see the normal clouds of color that people see or the lights that the Kundalini once brought them. Now they see this blank expanse of nothingness. And it's just an incubation period, really. But people, they get afraid of this because they're not used to having this type of a thing. And once again, like the beginning of the Kundalini, people are afraid of that because it's the unknown, and it's not, you can't twirl it around your fingers, and you can't taste it or see it, not with normal physical vision. And so as you come into the void, sucks away the understandings that have come into the person's experience up to that point, and they're kind of thrust into this empty nothingness, and the soul is just like floating in a space that is nothing. There's nothing there, no stars, nothing. You're just kind of, you don't know up from down, right from left. You're just there, and you don't know what's going on, and that's the space that this person may be entering into, and it's not a bad space at all. Because you're there. Your grace is there. And it's time to remove the expectations of tactility and mental understanding and the outside in. It's time to focus just on that which is within. And so on the outside, you won't see anything. You won't feel anything either. Except you might feel some fear. Because what the heck is going on now? I've gone through all these other things, and now what is this? And you get to experience the void. And the void experience can last a long time. It can last years. But it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. Because what do you still have? You still have you. You still have your mantra. You still have your trust. You still have your faith. And in order to nourish faith and trust, you can't know the answers. You cannot know the answers. Over.
I love that, actually. Every time, that's great that you cannot know the answers. It's a great, it's a good one, Chrism, when you're in a position of wanting the answers, to know that you can't. And that's how trust is given. Thank you. There was a question. It's not so much a question, Chrism, but you made a comment again about, and you often refer to this, that there's no need for protection if you're given fully into the Kundalini. That protection invites fear. Could you speak a little about that?
Yeah. Somebody was complaining about being attacked. They thought they were being attacked, and of course, entities will attack you, that type of a thing. And then another person came out and said, well, create a bubble and project it out from yourself, and don't use the mirror method, just use the bubble method. And as they attack the bubble, then they'll bounce off, or some such thing. And I like to start people off right off the bat, totally trusting the Kundalini. Let me tell you, I used to, look at the bubble thing or the mirror thing or the shield thing. And I mean, every now and again, I'll still have a person put up a rose and spin a rose around them. But the best course of action, really, is to trust the Kundalini completely. And if you're able to do that, that takes fear right out of the equation. And so once fear is out of the equation, you don't need to put a bubble up. You don't need to make your body into mirrors. You won't need to go to your shaman and go, I'm being attacked. And he'll put the feather over you, blow the tobacco smoke at you, and nothing will work because these are Kundalini things that are coming at you. And you don't need protection. Protection is an advertisement of fear. Whenever you see someone protecting themselves, they're protecting themselves against a perceived fear, a fearful event or a fearful person or a fearful something coming at them. Within the Kundalini world, she's really teaching you to be fearless. So don't protect yourself. Trust in the Kundalini completely. Say that mantra. It's just like like what I was asking you earlier, Centaura, about saying the mantra with regard to that entity, and that's your first line of response to that entity is saying that mantra. Saying that mantra is basically vocalizing your trust in the Kundalini. Is this not so?
It is, Chrism, totally, yes. It's not said for fear. It's absolutely for trust. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. And go ahead.
I feel very blessed because when I came into Kundalini, that was you always, one of the very first things that you began to teach me, the first thing I saw was about fear and not going into fear. And if people could really, I suppose, believe, but if people could trust or know that that is true about not going into fear, it is such, I think it's like a shortcut. You can get rid of a lot of stuff. You can just not go to a lot of places, To know that I needn't to be fearful of anything within the Kundalini is a blessing. So if you can trust that, it makes a big difference. It made a huge difference to me. I was very fearful before.
I see Cole has joined us, and Cole has that entity thing going on too, and I'm going to suggest for Cole to get one of these mantras, one of these deep, dark, mysterious, powerful mantras, and then for him to really, 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 really focus on that, and let that clear away some of the clutter that these entities can create inside somebody's consciousness. Over.
Thank you very much, Chrism. So, the next question you've talked about before, but it comes up regularly, and I'm wondering if anyone else here gets yawning fits. I yawned continuously for 20 minutes, once every minute or so. Why is this, please?
Did you say yoni? What?
Yawning. Oh, that kind of thing. Yawning.
All right. As long as you weren't yawning.
Well.
There's a difference between yawning and yoniing.
Yeah.
Of course, I think each one is good for the body, providing you have one. All right. Yawning is a form of energetic balancing within a spiritual or energetic and anatomic equation. The Kundalini will bring on profound yawning fits, and I just want you to yawn your little head off. It's not going to hurt you. It's going to help you tremendously, and it won't go on forever, but it will go on for a little while, and so let yourself yawn continuously as long as you need to, as long as you're compelled to. Don't try to force yourself to yawn, but as when you feel it coming on don't resist it. Nothing is wrong. All is right. It's just a level of energetic balancing within the body, within the system.
Thanks, Chrism. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There was another question about. Let me see now. Long. I just want to see. Okay. Basically, it's about lingual kriyas. Could you just speak a little bit about what a lingual kriya is? Lingual kriya is, please, because that as a kriya might not be spoken about very often.
Lingual kriyas are tongue kriyas, or tongue positions that the person will adopt. There are 5 points in the upper palate where the tongue tip can fit into a little chakra there and plug into that chakra for different things. But there will be kriyas where the tongue will just go kind of like crazy inside the mouth. It'll touch all these different areas. It'll curl. It will straighten. It will go up into Kachari. Lingual kriya is where the tongue tip goes up into the navel cavities. There are all kinds of different tongue kriyas that a person can have, and even touching specific teeth with the tongue tip is like almost like playing a piano inside your mouth with regards to the tip of the tongue meeting the chakra that is that tooth. And so all of the teeth are chakras. The tongue tip is a chakra, and then you have behind the upper front teeth, you have a very major chakra there, and that's why the Kundalini puts your tongue tip behind the upper front teeth, that little flesh mound there. And then going back from that flesh mound towards the throat are 4 other lingual kriya points or chakra points that the tongue can be controlled by the Kundalini to touch. And there you go.
Thank you, Chrism. That's
Cole says the chat room works on the other computer. I'm not quite sure what that means. But
he was trying to get on.
Oh, I see. Glad you got on, Cole. And it says, I was listening from the start, so I've been with you all along. Oh, great, Cole. Glad to read it. Thank you for writing. Go ahead, Miriam.
That's the end of the questions I gathered, Chrism. So, there's a few things that I'd like to say, if I may. Just the usual 2, which is about the seminar in Berlin, on the 16th and 17th of September in Berlin. Manisha is organizing it. Manisha there in the chat room, and she would love to hear from you. So get in touch with her if you want to know anything about it. She is on Facebook, Manisha Manish, or you can go to the Facebook Kundalini Seminars and Events with Chrism. It's a page, and you will see the information there. It's happening in September, which really is probably only 8 or 9 weeks away. We would very much welcome to know of your interest. If you contact Manisha, she'd like to hear from you, because we need deposits to come in now. I think people are inclined to think, oh yeah, I'm definitely going. But in order to get Chrism's airfare done now, we do need people to get in contact, pay their deposits, or pay the full thing at this point in time. So if you could contact Manisha, Maneesha, at postdo.de, or find her on Facebook and let her know of your interest, please. That would be wonderful.
Can you send that with saying A instead of A?
A, okay, so let me spell it again. Maneesha at posteo.de. Manisha at posteo.de. You're welcome. And the other thing is, if you would like to make a donation to support the work Chrism does, please go to www.kundalinisafety.com, or you can also go to one of the blog spots that Chrism writes, for example, www.chrism-kundalini.blogspot.com. And something that I would like to just share, if I may, and that is that hopefully and definitely coming up soon in Ireland, we're going to be having a Kundalini house, and I'm going to be starting a GoFundMe for that, because John and myself that's my husband, we're really being guided to provide. We have a house and a little place in Kerry, and we're being guided by Kundalini to develop this into a Kundalini house for community, where Chrism can actually be the residential teacher, but not quite living there. He would reside there maybe twice a year, but it can also develop in other ways. So to begin with, John and I can provide the place, and we can provide other things. But in order for this to begin, I'm being given that we need to have a little fund, so that we can be very confident that I can bring Chrism over to Ireland to meet this community, because it's going to be a place of retreat, seminars, refinement, and it's going to happen not dependent upon how many people come or their ability to fund Chrism coming to Ireland. There needs to be a fund in place. So when I organise the GoFundMe, I'm hoping that it will be very much supported. I'm going to look for a certain amount of money, and then once that's found, we can actually begin this process. And there's a lot of people that are going to help. Manisha is going to help, and other people are going to help support this Kundalini house. So it's kind of exciting. It's going to be like bricks and mortar, and it's going to be for the Kundalini and Kundalini people. So it's really on the verge of blossoming. So I hope you can support it when the time is right. So thank you for listening. Oh, and Chrism, may I just say as well that with your blessing, I'm being given a few weeks off from Blog Talk. I'm going to Kerry, and if I was to do Blog Talk, I'd have to be out in the country at midnight searching for Wi-Fi because I don't get it at the house. And so Chrism has allowed me and has given a blessing for me to take a few weeks off. I'm after setting up the next few weeks in advance, and I will go out on the Wednesday and I will place the links and everything on the groups, but then I won't actually be here to assist on the days. I won't be back until the 20-something of August. So that's it really. Those are my announcements, Chrism.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you. Thank you for making those announcements. And I'm going to bring Rosemary on. And hi, Rosemary. Do you have announcements you'd like to make?
Yes, I would like to add this, that we certainly are a large Kundalini community. We are, and from many parts of the world. So the Kundalini family here in the Twin Cities is working on a Kundalini seminar in October, and it will be October 28th and 29th, and it is at the American Hotel and Conference Center in Mankato, right on the edge of the university there. And my information is, my Facebook name is Rosemary G. Kundalini. Feel free to send me a private message there, and we can communicate like that. My regular email address is rosemaryg@usinternet.com and 651-329-9615. And we have rooms there ready for a group to stay, and we're looking forward to it. We have a lot of people that we're going to be talking to soon, and an amazing Kundalini conversation here in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul, and Mankato, and Rochester as well. So thank you for your support for our community, and I say that as well to all of us in our lives and our journeys. This program, Chrism, is really always very touching. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Rosemary. Thank you, Rosemary and Katie and Joey as well. And Cole says, I was listening from the start, so I've been with you all the time. He says, is the effectiveness of healings, is this dependent on the Kundalini individual's level of emphatic response? No. Not at all. I mean, the healings can come regardless of the person's response. And then he continues, he says, I have had dreams where I feel extreme empathy for someone in need, and the healing given when I pray to my Kundalini. This is good. Cole continues, he said, my Kundalini is of a very tangible, recognizable nature in comparison to when I pray for healing in the waking state. He says, thanks. And there we go. Okay. I want to give you a mantra, Cole. So let's get together for that. And this will also change the level of healing that you're able to give and receive. All right, everybody. This is about it for this program. I want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you, Amelia, Rosemary, Joey. Thank you, Manisha, Michelle, Vicky, and Cole, and the guests, and those of you who are listening on the Facebook groups, and those of you that are in the future archive people listening on the archives. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and I look forward to another conversation about your Kundalini next Wednesday. And I'll sign off the way we signed in. Here we go. Ah.